Hello, and welcome to our training video on alerts management. Alerts is an area that impacts every program. It's very global, so this is global admin training. You'll find all the alerts in your utilities menu and alerts management. This is a great area to come look and just see prior to go live, but even after go live, you'll have questions on how do I receive an alert? Why am I not receiving an alert? Things like that. So this is just great to answer questions. You don't even have to come in here and change anything. They're already set up and ready to go. You can modify them if you want to, but you do not need to. But the very right column, the recipient, will answer a lot of questions on who actually receives this alert. The subscribable column will tell you if there's a check mark. That means that person has to subscribe. So remember, internal users are the only users that subscribe to alerts, but they get to pick and choose what alerts they want to receive, unless it's an action item, like an action item alert that would be triggered automatically that you don't subscribe to is if I notify you next, like to approve a claim or to approve any type of document, and I've actually selected your name, you're going to get that automatically. But this one that I'm highlighting, the new user registration alert, it's subscribable. So an example for this one is if you are responsible for approving new users within your program area or even globally, you need to subscribe to this alert in order to receive it. There's a lot of staff that would not be responsible for approving new users, and they wouldn't want to receive this email, so they wouldn't subscribe. So that'll tell you if someone asks you, why am I not receiving this alert? You can quickly come in here and go, okay, did you subscribe to it? And then make sure, depending on the rules, each one is a little bit different, and it depends on the area. So this list looks a little overwhelming when you first look at it, but it's organized. You have registration alerts, organization, funding opportunity, application, and so on. Now, if there's a check mark here in the active column, that means it's turned on. You can turn your alerts off. In fact, a lot of clients will turn off. There's a few that I see turned off a lot, and that's your application awarded, application not awarded. If you're doing pre-apps, that's approved, not approved. Now the approved would need to stay on because you're approving a pre-app. But the not approved, I have a lot of people tell me the not approved and the not awarded. Typically, you have to send out letterhead and notify them as to why. Because these are global alerts, you can't get program specific in here. And as you can see, you can't list a reason why. This alert is triggered to any application that's marked not awarded. So if you want to turn an alert off, it's as simple as saying no, and then clicking save, and that alert will no longer send out when that status is changed. And then it's just as easy to turn it back on. Now in this particular alert, we'll look at this and talk about what we can change in these substitutions that we're seeing here. These alerts are sent out by the system. So they're going to actually be sent from the system, not by a person. So it always leave that do not respond to this email, so they know not to respond. Don't change the alert name. Nobody's going to see that alert name except you. What the user that receives this alert will see is the subject and then the message. And these items that are bracketed in here are your substitutions. So it becomes personal to that person receiving it. The document ID in this case would be an application. It'll automatically populate that, populate their name, the title. In this case, it'd be the application title, the program. And so it'll become very user specific when they receive it. It's highly recommended that you do not put program specific language in these alerts, because when it's triggered for a different program, it'll be really confusing for that user. But you can add to the body as long as it's globalized. It fits for any application. In this case, any application under any program, you can add to the body. You can also add these substitutions and make sure they are exactly as they are displayed here. For example, if you didn't capitalize the T in title, it would not work. So I highly recommend you copy and paste, and you can put them wherever you want them. You can't borrow substitutions from a different alert and put it in like this one. For example, if I went to a status report alert, I'd probably have a document ID, like a sub ID, because you might have multiple status reports. I couldn't put that in an application alert. First of all, it wouldn't make sense, but you can't borrow substitutions from a different alert. So these are the substitutions available for this particular alert. And you can add to the body. Another thing I want to show you is this one doesn't have a frequency. It's just sent out one time. So it's one time when the application is put in not awarded. But you will see some of these alerts have a frequency. You can update that frequency. You can see we've done that here. We've added some negatives. One that I see changed quite a bit are status report alerts. So status reports, if they're scheduled out and they have a due date, this is really handy because it reminds the grantee that they have a status report due soon. And it goes out on this frequency. So if you ever see a frequency like this with numbers and it doesn't say one time, that means it's going to get triggered multiple times based on whatever frequency is set here. Again, you don't have to worry about changing this or updating this before you go live or anything like that. This is something you can think about or update at any time. They're set at a default standard. So typically you'll see like 14 days, 7 days, 3 days, 1 day. What that means is what their status report, in this case it's a status report alert, what their due date is on that status report. Based on that due date, it's going to go out 14 days prior to that due date. Now, if they still haven't submitted that status report, they're going to receive the same alert reminding them 7 days prior, and then 3 days, and then 1 day. Now, this might seem like a lot, but don't worry. If they submit in their status reports, it's not going to trigger this alert. So it's only for those status reports that have the due date and they're lingering out there, they're sitting and editing, and it's going to constantly remind the grantee that they need to submit in their status report. And again, once they get it submitted, this doesn't trigger anymore. But I see a lot of people that'll come in and add days. Don't put a space in your frequency. But for example, if you wanted to have this sent out 21 days, some people also add a negative. What that negative does is it sends it and it changes your due tense here. So instead of saying it's due soon, it'll say it's past due. And you can do like a negative, like 1 day. So this would be 1 day late. And you could keep adding and so on. I will say at that point you should probably get in contact with that grantee if it's so late. You know, obviously this alert is not working for them and you might need to give them a call, but it does help you and you can come in here and set up and add that frequency. And again, you can update the body of the email, just don't make it program specific. And you can see that these substitutions for this particular alert are a little bit different. It also will tell you the type of user that this goes out to. So internal users versus external users. And in the very beginning of training, in the people and organization database training, we learned that external users don't get to subscribe to alerts. External users alerts are all action items. So they're going to receive them no matter what. And then the last thing I want to cover here is I have a lot of people that maybe go live in the middle of training, or it's been maybe a year since you've posted something and you're a little concerned about these alerts being triggered and you're not wanting them to go out. And I've seen people come in and turn them all off. You do not need to do that. Think about it this way. If you're not using an area, so let's say you're a person that doesn't use site visits. You just don't do site visits. You don't need to come turn them off. If you never create this data, so you never create site visits in this example, these alerts wouldn't be triggered anyway. The alerts are only triggered when that thing happens. So if you use claims, these claim alerts would then be triggered if they're active. Thank you for watching.